Hi, hello, audience, everybody. So, first, let me introduce about our Sell Like Her podcast. Sell Like Her podcast is dedicated to inspire and empower women to pursue an excellent sales career by filling the gender gap to live to the fullest of her potential and to achieve financial independence. I'll be interviewing amazing, successful women sales leaders and CEOs from India and around the globe, where we discuss their sales journey, their challenges, their wins, and much more. And I'm happy to welcome our guest today, Bernadette McClelland. Hi, Bernadette.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm happy to have you here. I'll just take your 2 minutes to introduce yourself and then we will continue our conversation. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, thank you, and lovely to be able to share some ideas to help some of the women in sales in India. So I
Okay.
am an author, I am a speaker, I'm a sales coach, a sales facilitator, all of those wonderful things that enable me to share ideas and help men and women in the B2B sales space.
Wow, great. And I know you're also author of Art of Commercial Conversations and you're upcoming author of Shift and Disrupt. So we will be discussing in detail. And also one main thing we would like to know about you is your experience with Tony Robbins because you were Asia Pacific Master Coach for Anthony Robbins. So something like we will be discussing soon. So just tell me like how the sales journey started for you.
Well, I guess there's different levels of sales journey. One is selling the lemonade on the corner of the street when I was a child. Then it was into retail sales where I used to sell pumpkins and fruit at the local fruiterer shop. Then when I first came to Australia, I applied for a job in the newspaper up in the Gold Coast, up in Queensland, which is very much a
Okay.
holiday destination, especially back then. And I applied for the job. It was selling stationery sets door to door in
Oh
support
my
of
God.
multiple sclerosis. And back then, I was earning commission only at $7 an hour, and that was a lot of
Oh
money to
my
an
God.
18-year-old a long time ago. But I moved into corporate sales with Fuji Xerox, Rank Xerox, and then it became Fuji Xerox in Melbourne, Australia. That's probably one of the best moves I've ever made in my career. I started off as an order entry clerk. So we are talking pre-computers as we know them today, where everything was manual. And I then moved into the credit department where I was working with the creditors and debtors side of things. And then I moved to become a sales secretary. And then I was the sales coordinator, doing all the commissions and processing the sales guys' orders. And it was in that role that I looked at the amount of money that was being made by the caliber of person making the money, and I thought, my gosh, if they can do that, then so can I. And that led me to moving into a sales trainee role at Xerox, and then moving into territories before taking on one of the senior specialist roles before I left Xerox. So it was a wonderful 20 years that I was at that company, and yeah, I credit what I'm doing today, a lot of what I'm doing today, to the ups and downs of working at Xerox.
Wow. Okay. So you are the young in young age you've started your sales at 19, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I just said at 19 years when you were young itself you've started your sales journey, right?
Yeah, so but from a corporate perspective, yeah, a little bit older than that.
Yeah. Okay. So being a woman in Australia, I know the ratio might not be that great as like USA, right? being a women in sales ratio in Australia,
Yep.
I feel it must be less compared to the United States. So, was there any challenges being a woman in sales in Australia when you started your sales journey?
Um, well, I think that the ratio of women to sales, women to men in sales in Australia is I mean, that gap is lessening now, but there is still it's still predominantly a male dominated industry, a male dominated role or career. Especially with a lot of alpha males in the space that I was in, which back then was very much the printing industry, moving into the technology space, software space now. So there are more and more women coming into the space, and I've just been speaking to a head of sales and marketing from a global company, but the Australia branch of this global company, and we had a short discussion on that as well. It's still pretty tough for women to climb that ladder. The challenges that I faced as a woman in sales back in the 80s was the fact that I think at one stage I was the only female on a sales floor of around 50 men. Um, that makes things difficult from a social perspective. It makes things difficult from an equality or an equity perspective. Um, and I think back then, and times have changed now, which is wonderful. But back then, it was a case of being one of the boys. And so, in order to fit in, women kind of needed to be one of the boys. And if you weren't, you were kind of out of the loop. And that made things difficult. Also, I was a single mum, and having a daughter who was between the ages of 1 and 5, 1 and 6, being a single mum in a sales role was really difficult when you had to front up on a Monday morning at 7:30 in the morning for your regular Monday morning meeting. Having to stay back late for meetings when juggling a child.
Yeah.
So those things were very difficult as well. And yeah. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, yes, yes. Uh, but what do you think made you to um, overcome those challenges, the struggles? What is that you use to overcome those challenges?
Look, I think we all. It doesn't matter what the challenge is. I can sit here and say that they were a couple of my challenges in my career. Um, it doesn't matter, whether you're running your own business, or coming through COVID, or juggling a family and a job. Every one of us has challenges of one sort or another. And I think the important thing is to sit down and think to yourself, well, okay, am I going into victim mode here? And if I am going into victim mode, let me be honest with myself, like hand on heart. There are certain things that you can do. There's certain ways you can think. There's certain people that you can ask for help. And so I think in the early stages, it's taken me a long time to be okay with asking for help, believe it or not, because I've always kind of had this thought that I should have it all together. I should know what I'm doing. Um, and if I didn't, then it was a kind of a sign of weakness. And so getting over myself and kind of cutting through all that BS was a big part of kind of getting through. It doesn't matter what it is that we get through. We've just got to be honest with ourselves, and there's always a way through, around, over, under.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay. So tell us about, I know like you had very big many years of experience in Xerox. Then from Xerox, like how it has evolved to a leadership role.
After Xerox, I I went out on my own doing what I'm doing now, and I did that for a couple of years, but self-limiting beliefs got in the way, and I walked away from doing all of this. And my husband and I, we bought a business, and we bought a retail outlet, and then we bought a wholesale business that was part of that. We started to import from China, and I got very sick, and as a result of that, we lost the business. We lost our house, or both our houses. We went bankrupt,
Oh,
and we were on Australian welfare, and that was back in 2010. And when I started to get better, I was in bed for all of 2009. I was in bedridden with my illness, and so when I started to get better, I Googled, and I realized that, while I was lying in bed, your thoughts go to, oh gosh, what are some of the things I wished I'd done? Because it was touch and go. It was life threatening. And so I started to get better, and I thought, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to do coaching. I'm going to go back to school. And so I did everything related to coaching. I got my diploma in business coaching, sales coaching, life coaching, NLP practitioner, you name it, I did it. And as a result of that, I was asked to apply for the role of Anthony Robbins coach for Asia Pacific, and there were only 20 that were being selected. And so globally, I was one of those 20. And so I worked with Tony Robbins for 3.5 years, and then decided that it was time for me to go out on my own again. And I haven't looked back.
wow. So my question is like, how was your experience with Tony Robbins?
In what context?
Like as a person, because you might have closely worked with him, right? There are so many followers for Tony Robbins, so
Yeah, see,
just
I'm a little bit different there. I don't follow a person as a guru.
okay.
I had a role to play there, and it was to coach businesses, senior leaders, sales leaders, business owners, very high performance people. And so that was my
Okay.
role. Yes, I might have met Tony and shook his hand, and he's given me a hug and a kiss and all that sort of stuff, but that means nothing to me. He's still a man who is sharing his thoughts around the world, just like all of us are doing as well. So I refuse to put somebody up on a pedestal.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your book. Little bit about your art of commercial conversation. Then we go about your new upcoming book. We are curious to know Shift and Disrupt. Just a few lines about those books.
So the art of commercial conversations are 9 conversations that we have that take us on a journey from being a transactional seller, transitioning through to being a transformational seller. So there are 9 conversations. There are 3 conversations around the way you approach the market. And those 3 conversations are the level of conviction that you have, connection with your buyers, and contact, and how to make contact with your buyers. The second lot of conversations are around the focus of your conversation. So are you very content driven with stories? Are you consultative driven with questions? Or are you contextually driven, where the conversations are more contextual? And the third lot of conversations are very much outcome focused. And so they are around the contract and the contractual and money side of things. It's around conspiring for your buyer's success, and ultimately our end goal being contribution. So they are the 9. You could say that they're the 9 cons of selling.
Wow.
But that book is really, that's been out for a few years now, and that's all about driving revenue, increasing margin, and selling a difference.
Mm.
So that book, I love that book. The book that I've just completed writing now, will be launching in Q2, is taking that another level. And that is shifting and disrupting not only our own thinking around the sales conversations, it's shifting and disrupting our clients, the way our clients think and feel about their part of the sales conversation as well. So my premise for the book is all around the fact that we need to stop selling widgets and we need to
Mm.
start selling wisdom, because we
Wow.
are now in a different economy, and our buyers are saying, hey, you know what, we don't want insights, we don't want you just to send ebooks, we just don't want white papers, we want you to collaborate with us, we want you to sit on our side of the table. And so the whole book is based on the story selling philosophy. The story selling circles is the model. And so if you consider for a moment the three factors, or the three, I guess, components that a business is looking for from their salespeople, it's to have not just more connections with their buyer, but it's to have higher level connections. It's to have more value driven, and it's to have more deeper conversations, and it's to increase their conversions. And so they're the three circles in a Venn diagram, if you were to say. And the magic happens at the intersection of each of those. So if you consider at the intersection of connection and conversations, that's all around the internal stories, the stories you tell yourself about the buyer
Mm.
or the deal. At the intersection of the conversations that you're having in your conversions are the external stories, and they are the stories you tell your buyer. And at the intersection of your conversions and a deeper level of connection, rather, are the essential stories, and they are the stories you must elicit from your buyer. So there's 9
Mm.
stories in total, and that's what Shift and Disrupt is based on: the story selling philosophy, the story selling circles.
Wow, I really loved, the stories. I think stories something, people can remember easily. They connect with you easily, Um, so I really relate to what you say, and story selling is something very new to me, honestly.
It is. It's new
Yeah,
to the market. So if you
good.
think
Okay.
about, if you were to Google story selling, you would get you would have what would come up on Google would be articles and ideas related to brand management, to marketing,
Mm,
to presentation skills. But there's nothing
yeah.
that is focused entirely on the sales profession.
That's true. Yes. So what I want to know is like, uh, what would be your daily habits, which helped you personally and in sales, if you could share to us.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question again. In what context? How I have my breakfast?
Like for example, people say, okay, as soon as I get up in the morning, I just prioritize, which customers or which follow up, or I just do uh, kind of walk with the dog, which makes me to feel good, energized. Each one will follow certain habits. I believe, habits is also something related to their success. So something like that, if you could share, it's an
Well,
optional.
I'm very, very lucky. I have a girlfriend who literally lives across the road. So we walk a few times, 3 to 4 times a week. And I look forward to that. It's a 7 o'clock in the morning a walk, even at -4 degrees Celsius. We'll go for walks. We'll go for a walk.
Oh my God.
But I love that because it enables me, not just from an exercise perspective and kind of like to start the day, but it enables me to be able to brainstorm ideas with somebody first thing in the morning. And but from a
Yeah.
ritual perspective, I'm not really strict when it comes to rituals. I know I have a whiteboard here, and I'm forever updating my whiteboard. There's always movement. There's always a project happening. Uh, and yeah, so I'm very focused on not just what I need to do, but who I need to be to do those things.
Okay, so the learning from you is like writing a whiteboard is also one of the things that's really, works, right? To write the projects on the whiteboard. That is something good learning for me today.
Yeah, I love my whiteboard. I love my whiteboard. It's always changing.
And whenever you complete some task, and if you're tick mark it or you're striking out, that gives kind of a good feeling of your wins, right? You win something.
Totally, totally.
Yeah. So what's your advice to women in sales who wants to get into sales career?
Who want to get into a sales career and aren't in that role yet, or who are
uh,
currently.
it's both who wants to get into sales and who is already in sales, but uh, they're unable to grow further.
Um, I think the first thing is making a decision. If you're already in the role, and this is not just for women, it's for anybody, but if you're already in the role and you're not feeling it, you're not, you're second guessing yourself, or you're thinking it's too hard, or you can't be bothered, or this is a waste of time, then you need to make a decision and either commit or go find something else to do.
Okay, okay, got it. And maybe the one last question is how you feel. I know you are in USA now. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah, loving it.
How you feel, Australia, the sales, the culture, and in US, a culture. Like, how do you see it?
Um, yeah, there is a little bit of a difference. I must admit, I am loving being over here. The network here is very supportive. Um, we come back to women in sales. There's, my reason for coming over every year for the past 10 years has been to hang out with the women in sales, women sales pros network, who are my friends. And I'm super lucky in Colorado. I think we had lunch 2 weeks ago, and I think there was 7 of us.
Wow.
So that's really wonderful. And that's just here in Denver. The difference with Australia, once again, I think it comes back to that whole ratio thing again. There weren't many women in Australia doing what I do. Yes, there are women doing sales training, but a lot of them are connected with bigger organizations, or connected with corporate roles, as opposed to being out on their own. So I've noticed that. I've also noticed that that people here are more open to embracing a sales conversation, as opposed to Australia. I think from a cultural perspective, Australia still has a mindset, it collectively has a mindset that sales is a dirty word. And whereas over here in America, it's such a capitalistic country, it's no, you embrace the word sales. So that's a bonus.
Wow, great. So what's your secret of success? Just in one word, if you want to say.
Now, and it comes back to what is success. So success for everybody is different. My secret for my success is not is stepping out and embracing the unknown, like coming across here at, my husband and I just, we kept our house, we've rented it out, we've sold everything, and we've moved over here on a, wing and a prayer. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is. None of us know what's around the corner. But you'll never know what's around the corner if you don't get off your seat.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's being brave. It's being gutsy. It's just doing what you really want to do and just doing it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How people want to reach you? If they want to reach you, how they can reach you?
LinkedIn, Bernadette McClelland. But also, look, if you've got listeners on the podcast that want to be, part of my VIP wait list for the release of the book, just go to shiftanddisrupt.com.
Okay.
I'll be putting resources there. So I would love your listeners, especially women in sales roles or women wanting to move into sales roles. The book Shift and Disrupt is not, it's a practical book. I'm giving away kind of like all my secrets, if you like. But it's not your typical sales training. So I really want to make that clear. It is all about how do we stop selling widgets, and those widgets could be financial services or they could be photocopiers. And how do we
Mm.
start selling wisdom? And that's a whole different conversation. That is not your typical sales training.
Okay,
So
so we will also put it in our description as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. And if anybody wants to hire me as a keynote speaker, go to BernadetteMcClelland.com.
Okay. Wonderful to have you here. Happy to have you and have the conversation with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being asked.
Yeah. Bye. Take
See you
care.
later.
Yeah. Bye.